So you talk about collaboration and AI, and anytime I think about collaborating, I think about collaborating on spreadsheets or documents or presentations, right?
Yeah.
That this is how we generally collaborate. Tell us how you collaborate using AI. We all work in organizations with many people. How do you get people to collaborate in AI? How does that work?
So I think part of that challenge is that, think back sort of like a lot of the collaboration tools that we'll call it 10, 15 years ago from like largely a software as a service and software sector, they were sort of, someone digitized a paper process. And even sort of like we think about like, digital whiteboards. The term is literally describing a physical thing in a room, but now it's digital. So we're sort of stuck with those tools because that is the user experience, the mechanism of collaboration that humans are used to, that are comfortable with. I don't know if we've quite, as a society, even figured out like what that next form of collaboration is, but we have Zoom meetings, we have like someone taking notes, now AI taking notes, we have a digital whiteboard, we're capturing ideas. The thing that I cared about is like, great, pick any one of those human ideas. Reduce the friction for the humans to put as many ideas on there as possible. But I wanted something that could be live and collaboratively edited, so everyone's working from the same space. I don't want to have to email things around. And I want something that is API accessible, so the AI can go in and make comments and add things and edit. And like that was sort of table stakes for us. Because like I can make the AI meet where the humans are. It's a lot harder to change the whole paradigm of human collaboration. So okay, start there. But one of the things that I sort of also insisted was let these documents sort of build. Don't delete things, just add, just keep adding. Leave traces of the things the assumptions you made, and they're like, oh yeah, and then, that was wrong. I want the assumption, and then I want how you figured out was wrong, and then your next idea. Don't delete it, don't edit the document to sort of delete things, just keep adding. Because AI, with that additional context, can be much, much more valuable. Because now it's not just gonna tell you, oh yeah, these are the things you would likely understand or get to the end, because sometimes it'll be wrong. It will actually walk you through as an org, here's the things you probably would have, like what you would have started with, and the mistakes you would have made. Or, your team keeps making this mistake and keeps making this assumption, and then you find out later that it's wrong. So like, let's maybe get ahead of that. Or it offers that as a suggestion up front. Hey, go find this out first before you waste 4 weeks getting to this assumption that you eventually prove wrong. So like having AI have that additional context can be much more valuable. It is like a very good research assistant if you give it a lot of context. But you should give it a lot of context. And that means adapting your collaboration processes to leave a lot more breadcrumbs behind. Don't pick them up, don't eat them. Don't make the Hansel and Gretel mistake. Like you want to leave all of the evidence behind for not only the team that might come behind you. It's proof of those failures. It's proof that you did the work, right? It's like, I spent 8 months and I finally got to one idea. It's like, no, I spent 8 months and I got to 99 ideas and I proved them all wrong to get to this 100th. That is valuable, but it's also valuable to your leadership and to the AI. So like, why not?
Does anybody, so thinking about failing so much in terms of generating so many ideas, is there ever a spot where you sort of get a side eye with saying, hey, you guys are really failing a lot. Can we get an idea to win here?
Yes. One of my colleagues described it as like, we need brownies along the way. It's like leadership does not like failure. Failure is not an option, James. You can't talk about how many times they fail. It's like, okay, what can I talk about? He's like, we need brownies. It's like, I don't know what a brownie is. He's like, what do you mean? Am I physically bringing them brownies? I've got some recipes. You ask an AI, hey, I need brownies. It will give you recipes. It will not give you sort of like shortcuts. And then the conversation becomes around, quick wins. And I was like, I don't even like that as an idea, because then you are surrendering the long-term 50-year goal for the short-term goal. And I would think as more as like, what I want is more of a, described as like a simple win. I want something that proves something along the journey. So you can design this like, hey, I want a couple failures before we have some sort of validation win, right? And you could frame we proved this wrong as a win. It removes one of those branches, but I would say that you have to have some of those simple wins along those journeys, because you are designing something that needs political and legal and ethical and social staying power, not just technical staying power. But assume that like the teams that you're working on these projects might exist. This project needs to survive, be validated, and avoid funding cuts for 30 years. And like people talk about like James Webb Space Telescope, again, not my department of NASA, but I think it's worth talking about. When they launched it, right? it had 364 single points of failure, and all of them had to succeed. So you do the numbers on that, like the likelihood of any one of those components failing, I think it was like 6 nines. Every single one of those components had to pass at a 6 nines level SLA, sort of like it can only fail like once in every million opportunities, sort of crazy level precision. Every single one of them. And all of those components were probably built by a different team. And they're all on that's cool. But now imagine, they're like, oh, they're on a 30-year journey. When they asked Congress for money for this, they underbid. They're like, yeah, we know. Day one, we're already lying about how much this is gonna cost. Or we're just not telling Congress, like, yeah, we need this much. And like, they knew that from the start that it was gonna cost more. But they knew that that was what's gonna get the political football moving, and then there's gonna be some momentum. And they played that political game for 30 years on a project that had massive, big, terrible failures. There was one, it was like a $900 million failure where they shook the satellite to like make sure it would withstand the launch, and bolts started just like flying off of it. Wow. And you're like, oh God, like okay, where'd they go? Where'd they come from? Oh, we don't know. We have to take it apart and put it all back together again, figure out where the bolts went. But also, we should probably find a different bolt vendor. Just saying. So that was like a test that we needed to do, and it revealed a $900 million problem. But at that point, like, all right, yeah, we're going to spend the $900 million. But to keep it politically alive for that long, that's real skill. And I think you should think about the political life of these projects, about the people who come after you, and like if you really want to make these changes, you should be thinking about like what the ecosystem looks like. If you build these AI tools, for example, I talk a lot about what the AI, assume that your funding for your team gets cut, and the people coming behind you may not be as qualified or as good at this. They were not as versed in the world pre-AI, in the sort of traditional digital marketing. So they won't know the trade-offs that you had to make. So you have to sort of leave the breadcrumbs for them, leave that documentation behind so that you can sort of survive the political length to like get to the end of these big projects. But again, James Webb Space Telescope, 364 points of failure, all of them succeeded, 30 years, way over budget, way over timeline, but probably one of the greatest scientific achievements of humanity. We are looking at light that is effectively from like the Big Bang. At think of it as like the precision of that satellite, it's looking at a match, like a single match lit on the surface of the moon from Earth. That is the precision, like 1 photon per minute sort of precision. That is an insane amount. We had to invent physics and cooling systems whole areas of physics and cooling that did not exist when we started the project. Like, yeah, we'll figure it out eventually. Like that sort of work has to be done by someone, but they were clearly thinking about that politics and the culture and how, again, this survives these like long-term changes.